Good morning, folks. Welcome to the special call meeting of the Danville Architectural History Board, September 30th, 2025, 10:31 a.m. First order of business is take a peek at our last minutes from June the 18th, I believe. If
You have
anyone-
two sets, actually, Chairman. There's
Yes,
June and August.
June 18th and August 6th. I will entertain, if you've had a chance to review those, a motion to approve or any suggested updates.
I so move.
Have a motion to approve both?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Very good. Ms. Joni, we now have, I guess there's some requests for 305 North 3rd Street for a fence.
Yes, sir. As you know, 305 North 3rd is a freestanding volcanic landmark, and it is placed under our purview for exterior changes.
And that's what we commonly call the Old Rhodes House or the Rain Tree House.
Yeah,
right?
the Rain Tree House. I have to say, Lynn's been great. She's great to work with. So she had contacted me some time ago about a fence that she wants to put in the side yard there. It is a metal fence. It's not going to be, it's a pass-through fence. It's going to be a rail fence. You will not be able to see it. It is set behind the front facade of the house and extends on that side yard along the property line. She indicated that she has some concerns about her grandchildren and her pets,
Okay.
clearly. So this is to do that. There's already a wrought iron rail fence there that's black. It really does meet our design guidelines in that, let me find it. The proposed fence, it can be seen from North 3rd if you're looking for it, but you really will have to look for it to see it. It doesn't obscure the front of the house at all. It is under the 5-foot requirement that we have in our design guidelines. It's a durable material. It's going to be aluminum with a powder-coated black matte finish on it, and it's an open design in character. So you have in your packets the footprint of it,
Yep.
as well as the rendering of what the fence would look like. And my recommendation would be approve that fence without restrictions.
Okay.
And it's not attached to the house at all.
I move we approve the applicant's request
Without restrictions.
without restriction.
I have a motion to approve. Any further discussion? Thank you for a concise explanation. A motion to second, please. Second. Lynn, we have a motion to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good.
I will let Miss Lynn know that she's free to proceed with her fence.
And thank her for all her good work on
Yeah,
North
she
3rd.
does. She was really great to work with and very
Yes.
considerate of that history structure and,
When's somebody going to occupy that piece of property?
I actually
come
think
up?
she comes down and stays there. I don't think she lives there full-time. She lives in Michigan, but she stays there quite often from what I can tell. I think it's a weekend home for her. But she does great work with it and has really maintained it and done all the good stuff for it, so.
Very
Okay.
good. Item number 4, National Register nomination, the Clemens Cowell House.
Yay! I'm
Yes.
happy, yes, I'm so tickled about that. We have Marty Perry from the Kentucky Heritage Council. Marty, if you'd like to take the mic.
Please.
Tell us all your good stuff.
What's normal?
It's normal just to come up and say who you are and what you're doing here, and that there's National Register. And our purpose in this is to make a recommendation back to the Heritage Council that we either think it's worthy of that, which I think we probably certainly will, or not worthy of it.
And would you introduce our guest, Joni?
Yes, it's Marty Perry, Kentucky Heritage Council. He is the National Register guru for all things. So I'll let Marty take it away.
Thank you for
Yeah,
coming.
well, thank you for giving me an opportunity to say something. I didn't come intending to say anything, and I was curious to see how your process works. I am able to talk about the nomination because I edited it with its author, Amos Green, and he worked very well with me on that. And so I know it as a written piece. I don't have visual familiarity with the building itself, but I know the story that we put together on the National Register form, and that's what gets it on the National Register is the written word. That's what we send to Washington, along with imagery, with photographs and maps and the other things that go along with those words. And so if you have had a chance to read it, you'd see that we're talking about its styling, its Greek Revival architecture being the basis for the claim for eligibility. It is significant as a piece of mid-19th century architectural styling. We're making a little bit of an unusual argument because this is late in the period of Greek Revival style, and a lot of our claims for significance rest upon the early members of a style group. And so this one's a late member of the style group. And so the argument about that on the form takes some time to say how tastes shift in Boyle County, what this building means within those tastes, and comes to the conclusion that, you know, it's significant not because it's an early example where other parts of Boyle County can be, that you could say that about them. This one has arisen and is kind of showing the family's status, family's solidness. And so it's a time in which the Greek Revival style actually has passed out of fashion, but has become an iconic way of telling people we're a solid family, you know? And so it's using style to communicate something other than aesthetics. That's a little bit different of an argument than we normally get in the National Register. And so it's the meaning of design as much as the earliness of design. And so I thought he did a really good job on that, defending it. Boyle County has a huge number of Greek Revival buildings, and they each can mean something. So they all can have a significance, each one a different significance. And so we've looked at this one in comparison with the other ones, and we've come to these conclusions. And so if you've read it, I'm telling you everything you already know. If you haven't had a chance to read it, maybe what I'm saying makes sense, but I'm here, I could answer questions about that if you have any questions. So there's my presentation that I didn't expect to make.
It's quite
Yeah.
interesting.
I thought Amos would
Put
be
in
here
perspective.
to make a presentation himself of his work.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Involve flowers?
No, it could lead to that, though.
Okay.
On the next to the last page, the ordinance says here, after this step, the board may request the building inspector to take action to require corrections of defects in the building structure designated under this ordinance, condition of his property. Does that, his property, does that mean just the building itself? Does that mean the entire property? Does
You're
that mean
asking
the
me-
ground, does that mean the grounds of the property also?
Are you asking me about your ordinance?
Yes.
You know
mean-
your
I mean,
ordinance better than I know your
Well,
ordinance.
no, you're the guru. I mean,
I'm the guru on the National Register, if you want to call me a guru
Right,
on
actually,
anything.
yeah,
That's John's
that would be
purview.
me. Marty is just really making the argument about it being nominated to the register.
So that specifically addresses the building and not the entire property?
Our ordinance?
Yes.
Yes, first of all, that is not within our purview.
Okay, got you. Okay. you
That
just
is
answered my
not,
question.
however, I've talked to Mr. Green about making that within our
I
purview
just-
at some later
I just-
date.
yeah.
But really and truly, that's not really something we need to look at right now because that's not part of the designated CLG area. What the Heritage Council is kind of required to do when you have a certified local government is address the nomination to them and either get a blessing from them or a rejection. So that's kind of our purpose in this process. I think that we have all been extremely concerned about that property for some time. It, for numerous years, made the most endangered list for the Boyle Landmark Trust. It certainly has the stylistic Greek revival. It also has some extremely significant ancillary buildings to it, which I think are included in this register nomination, which will help Mr. Green as I guess it's his intention to try to work on all of that, as he's kind of indicated to me, which is a good thing. So certainly, I would think that it does meet criterion C on the National Register. And if you can look at your staff report there, I suggest that we wholeheartedly support this nomination as first step into really giving that property some significant protection. It's, as we all know, the Clemens Caldwell family's deep roots here, and that house is, I would consider that a iconic landmark within the county.
What part do you, going forward, what part do you play in this whole process?
I work in a little bit of a role like Joni works for your process. So there are 3 levels of review: a local review, a state review, and a federal review of the National Register form. And so I organize the state level review, and in that responsibility, I'm the editor of the forms for Kentucky that are proposed for National Register listing. And so I work with the authors to construct a form that will be approvable by all of the reviewers, local, state, and federal level. And so I've been working with the National Register for a long time and understand what they're looking for. And so I can help the people who are putting these forms together to be successful when they get through their reviews at the different points, because I know what people are looking for at each of those different points.
Just for information, I guess, what's the financial cost to an individual, say the people who own this property?
To get it on the National
Yeah.
Register, doesn't cost a penny of money. It costs a lot of time. So the person who wrote the form has to spend the time working with me to get to a final draft. And we went through many, many different drafts to get there. So, but there's no filing fee or registration fee or review fee. My services are covered. In my office, we have other programs that require review of application forms, and citizens of Kentucky have to pay for Heritage Council help in review of those forms, but my help doesn't cost any citizen of Kentucky money to get my editing help, editing advice.
What's the, once it gets through the process and it's approved, what's the proper terminology I'm looking for? What's the
Rate of
what's the pluses and the minuses after it's proposed?
Well, the pluses and the minuses tend to be in the mind of every person. So what I would offer as benefits, I hope you would perceive as benefits, but you could say, no, they're not a benefit. So I think the main driver for a lot of people to get on the National Register is that once you're listed, you get access to a financial benefit, and those are tax credits. And so a person who owns a building and occupies that building can get back 30% of the money that they spend to fix up that building that's on the National Register if they work with my office through an application process to improve the property, but in a way that respects its historic character.
Okay, how far back does that go? Is that retroactive to a particular time, or what? How's?
A person could do work as long as 2 years ago and apply for a tax credit and still get it. But today is September 30th of 2025. I don't know if a person could actually get expenditures on October 1st of 2023 to count toward their tax credit, but they could apply, and the law says you can take 24 months of, the state law says you can take 24 months of expenditures toward the tax credit amount, so it's 30% of 24 months of expenditures, and that, in a literal way would take you back to October 1st of 2023. I don't know if you actually could go back that far. I don't know whether the 24 months starts at the application date or the approval date or the finish of the work date. So it's 24 months at some point of time within a project life. So that's one benefit, the financial benefit of the access to tax credits. That goes 30% to homeowners who occupy their building. It's 40% for landlords. So if you own a building and you're renting it out to something, you can get back 40% of your fix-up costs if you abide by the other requirements of that program. There are a number of other kind of benefits of the National Register that are less tangible than the money aspect. And so there's a protection benefit. Federal agencies have to give respect to properties on the National Register. There's a civic benefit, meaning people get, feel a kind of pride in their community. And so putting buildings on the National Register, especially like your downtown, can make people feel like their community is a better place than if it's not on the National Register. Again, there's one of those things that people could argue over and maybe even disagree with me on. There's an educational benefit. Anybody who wants to know about the history of architecture in Boyle County has a great new tool right now to learn about that in this nomination form. And so I always argue that there's a very high educational benefit out of this. And for many owners, and I think Amos would be one, there's a pride benefit. So the benefit of being on the National Register is he gets to brag he's got a historic house that isn't just old, but it's been recognized by governing bodies to be historically significant. It's officially historic.
One more question. What's the pluses and minuses if and when it's ever sold to the public? In your
You did ask me
professional opinion?
about minuses in the previous question. There are no minuses with the National Register that I can point to. So there are no restrictions for owners. If your property's on the National Register and, if Amos got it into his mind that he needed to get rid of that house and build up a new house in its place, there's nothing about the National Register status that would stop that. So National Register listing doesn't confine owner choices. Whatever they could do before it's on the National Register, they can do after it's on the National Register. 24 communities in Kentucky have said, that's too much freedom, or that's putting at risk our community's valuable resources. We need to pass a law, and you all are one of the communities that have passed that law that says we need to find a way to regulate that kind of change. Building codes regulate some change, but they don't stop properties from being demolished. You can demolish a property and you're not violating building codes, you're not violating planning and zoning ordinances, and those are the only things that govern physical change to the landscape. And so it leaves those two devices, building codes and planning and zoning, leave your historic buildings vulnerable. And so 24 communities in Kentucky have passed local ordinances to achieve historic preservation protection for what they consider to be significant places. And so you all have the right and have exercised that right to declare things to be Danville landmarks, and then they are subject to the protections of your ordinance, and I think that's what you were reading from. And so your question is about negatives or benefits and negatives or costs. So there's nothing about the National Register alone that keeps owners from doing what they want to their buildings.
Okay. So generally speaking, correct me if I'm wrong, so generally speaking, a house or a building that's on the National Register is worth more to the public than one would be without? Is that, I know that's a crapshoot to tell me that what you think.
I don't make that argument. I can't substantiate that claim. I don't think Amos should expect his assessed value to change and his taxes to go up after the listing of his house. If I said yes to you, those things should happen, that the PVA would have a basis for raising his taxes. I would ask the PVA, what can you point to that demonstrates that his property is more valuable after it has been listed? What data would you use? What comps would you use? Because PVAs must use data to make their decisions. I'd say, where's the data that shows that? And so I'm looking for that data, and it would make it easier to sell the idea of being on the National Register to people who want their house property values to go up, and I don't know where that data is. I've been looking for it. I can't find it. There are some academic studies that attempt to show that, but it's a really hard thing to accomplish in an academic way because it means locking down all the other variables and letting one variable, National Register listing, be compared between two properties, one that's on the register, one that isn't, and all other variables stay stable. It's hard to get that kind of laboratory environment to look at the single effect of National Register listing on a property's value.
Okay. And I don't mean to take all the time, but I got one more quick question. What's the difference in layman's terms, and I know you've done a good job already at that, what's the difference in a National Register historic building and one that is a Kentucky landmark designated by the state of Kentucky?
We were the agency that maintained Kentucky landmarks for a long time. During the term of Governor Bevin, he asked our agency about the Kentucky landmarks, and one of the questions was, is it legislatively created? And it wasn't. We created it as a kind of promotional tool to invite people to think that their properties were historically valuable. We had a certificate. We often had certificate ceremonies, and so it worked as a psychological process, but it wasn't a legislative process, and he told us to quit. And so we don't have Kentucky landmarks anymore.
Who told you to quit?
Governor Bevin.
Interesting.
Dana?
Yes, Ms. Dixon?
Excuse me. I want to question whether a related house, meaning the brother who built the house we're discussing and turned it into the Greek Revival home, built another home in Danville that is quite extraordinary because they were in strong competition. And they had a falling out over who was going to get the courthouse. So would that relate, the story of that relationship have any bearing on getting this other house into the National Register?
Amos could have made something of that if he wanted to. I wasn't aware of that. That's kind of an interesting side story.
It is.
And I'm glad that you point that out to me, and I can ask him to tell me about that, and we have the records on these properties, and so I'd like to take a look at that.
The owner of the family has had an extensive history created, so it's all written. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's,
I know she struggled
Well, maybe she'll want to get on the National Register to get access to the tax credits, and they can help her. If she has mandatory changes, she can reduce the cost of some of those through the tax credit possibility. Well, thanks for bringing that up. That's something that I didn't know about from working with him.
Well, I don't think the one family would have told about the other.
Gentlemen,
That's the
ladies,
topic.
anything else?
I would wholeheartedly recommend that we give this local approval for National Register
Do I have a
listing.
motion to approve? Ms. Dixon? Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Bowling? Thank you, Mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank
Aye.
you.
Yeah.
Love the
Fantastic.
educational aspect of that. Thank you. It's an
Oh,
added
yeah.
treat today.
Great. Thank you for saying so.
Thank you, Marty. I'll send you a yay, thumbs up report.
So
So,
we can get in touch with you through,
me, easily. Yeah.
Dana, what is the second property? I know this story and I've forgotten what the second,
I forget what it's called, but it's before you get to the new distillery on Lebanon Road. It kind of
Sets
sits
up
far
off-
back and
yeah.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
neighbors the community college campus.
I know the house, but I don't know its historic
Yeah,
name.
would-
No, sir, you're
Thank
fine.
you very much.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you bunch.
Now, you're welcome to hang around, but I get it. I understand.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, you want to brief us on item number 5, 204 West Main Street?
Yeah, this is a sticky wicket.
John can handle it.
What do you mean?
I make a motion, we turn this over to John.
Over to John. I will just say, I
I
am
move for its
tickled.
approval, Dan, if you would turn it over.
I'm really tickled that Clemens Caldwell House is getting National
Oh, yes.
Register. I'm
Oh, yes.
absolute, and the ancillary buildings as well. And I've already kind of initiated a discussion with Mr. Green about, hey,
Well, he says it doesn't protect it, but yes, it does.
well, I've sent him a thing saying, if you're, because he seems to be very genuine about wanting to protect the property and all the ancillary buildings, because it's about a 7-acre
Yes.
area that he's putting on the nomination. I'm like, if you really want to get some protection, let's talk about local landmark status. So I'll follow up with that and see what he
Okay.
has to say. So yeah, that's a good thing. The next one is not a good thing. In preparing for the Paul Run grant, I ended up, we had to do quite an extensive narrative, and I ended up happening to take numerous pictures of a lot of the structures around Constitution Square, as that is a National Register district, and this particular house is included in that National Register district at 204 West Main. The house is getting in significant disrepair, excuse me. Shut my phone down. So I took numerous pictures of the property from the front and the back, and I've been noticing over the past 3 or 4 years, the windows in that house are becoming in awful shape. I mean, they're really deteriorating to the point that you're looking at some of the seals failing. It's bad. And it's bad enough that I think at this particular point, we need to exercise our power within our ordinance to call the owner into a meeting and ask what they intend to do to fix the windows.
Well,
Because
That's our job. is
that's our
to-
job.
is to
And
protect.
if honestly, if we let this set another couple years at the rate of deterioration, they're going to fail. So at this particular point, I would say that this is demolition by neglect on these windows. This is, without a doubt, one of the oldest buildings still standing in Danville, if not the oldest. It is a federal style, and it is one of the few that has 9 over 9 windows that still exist on the front facade, and it's a pretty significant edifice for the community and for the National Register District. So at this point, I would recommend that this board exercise its legal right to call that owner in and ask what, we give them 30 days to find out how they're going to fix it. And frankly, fixing it by putting in replacement windows is not an option for this building. They need to be repaired.
Who owns that building?
The only person I can find is RZJ LLC, but if this board moves to exercise its right to do that, I will ask our attorney to trace down who owns the LLC and get them in here to talk with us about how they're going to fix it. Because the only thing I have access to is what's listed on the PVA. So this is going to take legal to figure out who owns this LLC. So I do not know who owns the building. I do know that the back is grown up, there's weeds standing. I mean, it's a mess. So it's time, I think, that we step in and figure out what's going on and try to fix or give some remedy. It was one of the buildings I did use in the narrative for the Paul Brunn grant. So being that it is so historically significant, that would be certainly one of the ones I would encourage the owner, if we get the grant, hopefully we'll get it and hear about that very soon, to use some of that money to do the restoration on the windows. So we're not just telling them they've got to get it fixed. There may be a vehicle where we can actually assist them to do that. But again, standing on Main Street, this is a big one, and we need to make sure that we are protecting it.
Do we, what authority do we have to force them to comply?
So if you will look on your staff report, I have copied the ordinance language.
I see that.
Yeah, and then at that point, if they do not comply, then we have the ability to fine them through the county system until they come up with some remedy and actually repair the building.
Am I in order to, well, maybe, no, let's deal with this first. I got another question pertaining to something like this, so,
But not this case.
not this case.
Okay.
Right, and at this point, what our responsibility is to meet with the owner and give them 30 days to come up with a remedy to fix these windows. And again, putting plastic replacement windows in it is not going to be the remedy this
I so
time.
move that we honor our director's request. to
I
meet
have a
with them.
motion. Any further discussion? Lynn? No? Can keep it short. So that you sit next to John next time. Okay, no further discussion. I have a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Please, all in favor? Aye. Please proceed.
Yes, I will
Madam
contact
Director?
Henry. He's on vacation with his kiddos down south, but as soon as he gets back, I will get him to figure out who owns this LLC. And then I've already spoke with with Hannah in Planning and Zoning, and we will write an official letter saying you need to appear before this committee and figure out how we're going to fix this. So now,
Just a note, perhaps we would make certain our attorneys here for that particular meeting.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I'll make sure that the attorney's here. We'll get it scheduled, and that may be a special call meeting just for that with the attorneys. So, yes, we need legal representation when that occurs.
What was the name of that corporation again?
RZJ LLC, and it's listed at the same address as the structure. So
Okay.
I don't know. Again, it's going to take legal to figure out who
Okay.
actually that is.
All right. Item number 6,
Okay.
bid for the CLG grant consultant.
This is easy, we just got one. But according to our rules, the federal rules, we have to look at this right now, that's why you didn't have it beforehand. We are, in fact, opening a sealed bid.
Okay. Ripped it open.
Is this the same company that did the last?
No. I did review the packet when they sent this. I sent the RFP out for folks to look at. They have pretty much answered all of our requirements, and they tell us about their firm qualifications. I have full confidence that they meet all of our qualifications that we requested in the RFP. And to cut to the chase, and you guys are welcome to take as much time as you want to look at this, but if you go to the very last part of it, it says proposal for Danville. This was dated back in January. I contacted the firm to just make sure that their quotes and schedules were all the same. So it's like the last 6 pages actually gets down to the nitty-gritty of how it's paid for, what the bill is, et cetera, et cetera. And given that we only received one, it's pretty much,
How were the requests distributed and over what geographic area?
so we had to publish it in the newspaper. Then I went through the Kentucky Heritage Council and sent it to 15 different firms in all the surrounding states. I sent them a direct RFP, 15 firms. And what's really, you know, some of the folks when I talked to about this, you know, they were talking $30,000 and $40,000 to do this work. And this is pretty simple work, really. Because we're requiring public meetings, I don't think that they wanted to invest sending folks up here from their staff. This is a local firm from Lexington. The other firm that I really wish had put in a bid on this was CRA, which did the last ones, but they no longer have anyone on staff that does design guidelines, apparently. So, you know, I asked in Ohio, Tennessee, Chicago, several places, but frankly, Dana, we're just not paying enough money. But then again, I have to say, we're only asking, you know, for the design guidelines for our signage and public art to be reviewed and
Just
to
kind
make.
of freshen them up, really.
Really, and the other biggie is we want to make sure that whatever our guidelines are sympathetic with planning and zoning. And we need some tightening up of what exactly is a sign, how it's attached to the building. Beforehand, it's been, if it's not actually physically attached to the building, we don't really have a say-so over it. So now you're getting these big pull-down shades like Ephraim McDowell's doing where they're closing in the whole window. They're not attaching it to the building, but it's still clearly a sign in advertising. So this is something that I've talked with Hannah, the planning and zoning director, as well. I've had a lot of folks in the community that really don't like that when it closes up the entire window. And that's something we can address through this process of what exactly a sign is, what the community wants to see as far as their signage in the window. And there's some loopholes, right? If you don't want it, if you don't want us to deal with it, then don't attach it to the building. You can just stick a big thing in the window, and then we don't have anything to say over that. So there's some loopholes there, and that's the same with planning and zoning. There's some loopholes in there. And then we get into the public art where we need to tighten that up a little bit. There's some variance issues with that through planning and zoning. So my goal is to streamline all this down so that the language is the same within the historic district.
Okay.
I think it's in their favor that they didn't come into design guidelines and they're active, very active.
Very active.
Yes, as a matter of fact, the gentleman who's going to work on this project worked for the city of Covington. He was in my role for the city of Covington, so Andre, I think, understands very well what we're in need of. Now, this process will also have a public meeting, and I'm going to rely heavily on Bull Landmark Trust and folks like that to turn up for this, to really have a vocal say in what they want to see as far as signage. Then we will have meetings with the different legislative bodies within Bull County. As you all well know, we've had some issues getting the city commission to back up what our decisions are. And hopefully, this will give the city commission an understanding that the public will is thus or not. You know, so it kind of helps us out. As I've told you all in the past, there are some distinctions about what we are required to do as far as signs, how they are actually submitted or attached to the building, if they destroy architectural value. And then there are the community added, like we don't want to see backlit bubble signs, and we don't want to see windows completely wrapped up and things of that nature. So it'll kind of help us define a better idea of what the community actually wants. And then there's the thou shall nots that we have to abide by. So I feel pretty confident about this firm, but it's up to you all. We can put it out for rebid, but I don't know that that's going to do any good.
Further discussion? I have a motion to accept and approve? Or approve and accept, which?
I don't think we've got really time to look through it, but we have to decide this
No, we can decide at a later date, but I will remind you guys, this got held up with the federal government for some time, and we've only got till August to get this done. It got held up for almost 5 months, and we didn't get any more time. Now, I can ask for an extension. That does not mean it's going to be granted, but if you all feel like you need to review this, we can certainly, we have another regular meeting coming up in October very soon. So if that's something you want to review, we can absolutely table it until you have, and I do not want to rush this process because this is the horse we're buying.
Have you had the opportunity to talk or speak directly with any of them?
Yes, I've spoken with Andre.
So did you have a good sense that they would be easy to work with?
Yes, I feel like, but in the end, this is your all's decision. So,
I know, I just wanted to know, you'd be working with them.
yeah, I'll be working with, I don't foresee any issues, but again, I do not want to rush this. I mean, we have a regular meeting coming up in 13 days? If you all want to table this and have a better look at it, even look up the firm, please do so. I don't know that 2 weeks is going to make a big old difference anyways, to be honest with you.
But they're willing to do it within our,
Yes, they are willing to do it within our budget. Yes, I mean, the other firms I got, when I first started this proposal way back in January, they're talking $30,000 and $40,000, which I thought was a little astronomical for what we're asking,
Yeah.
for what we're asking them to do. Especially since, we're not rewriting the chapel, the Sistine Chapel here. It's kind of already there. The biggest lift is going to be making all of this with planning and zoning come together. And that's going to take, we can make the recommendations and change our design guidelines. That would be easy enough, but getting planning and zoning moving, that's something that I'm going to have to shoulder.
And that could take some time.
It's going to take some time. It absolutely. But I think that the new planning and zoning director recognizes that there's some issues, and we've had that discussion about making just a local historic district, which would probably help things because planning and zoning really, they have like a commercial district, and it's for everything. It's not really specific to the local historic district.
I think we ought to move forward, and having said that, I'm going to make a motion that we accept the bid for the grant, for the consultant. I guess is that the proper verbiage?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
So I have a motion to move ahead and approve,
Motion to move ahead and approve.
whichever, I'm not sure which is the proper terminology for the secretary, but
I have
Go
no
with
question.
this.
to go with this, yes.
Yes.
So, I'm supposed to take a minute too.
Woohoo!
Okay, so,
You do a wonderful job.
She
Excellent
does.
job.
She does an excellent
I
job.
think we should pay you more.
Yes.
I have a question before. you call
Yes,
the
ma'am.
question. On this list of services that they intend to provide, is that mirror what you asked them to provide?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Well, then, why wait?
All right. Do I have a second?
Oh, I thought Lynn said, I'll say.
Okay, you second. So we have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Proceed.
All right, I
Madam
will get
Director.
this set up and give
And
you all.
Thank you for all the work on that. I know this isn't an easy, this RFP wasn't a cakewalk.
They are not. However, this is something that we've been talking about now for a couple years, and we really need to do this. So I feel like
right.
this would be, and just the public engagement itself will help us, I believe.
Well, with that, yes, sir.
Just a comment. Perhaps putting it on the agenda for our next regular meeting is to bring this proposal back up for discussion, where we are in the process. And I have in front of me, I think something you put out about some of the things that we wanted to revise, define temporary, permanent signage. Done.
Yes.
Perhaps for the next meeting, could you come up with a specific list of changes that we need to be looking at that we can bring forward do that. It is just, maybe this is all we have. I'm just saying, you were talking about loopholes, and you were talking about some strange window things. And on here, we just have defined temporary, and I'd like that discussion with us to say, okay, specifically, we're talking about this kind of problem. Up for discussion.
Well, I'm happy to do that, but I think at this particular time, it would be better for us to have that discussion with the consultant also when we get them on board to actually talk about, because, Lynn, there are issues out there that I don't understand or know about myself. So if we get the consultant on board, that would perhaps be a time to have a meeting with him and talk about all of these issues. And I'm happy to bring these forward to you, but I don't know what they all are. And until they kind of do a review of what the planning and zoning language is as opposed to our language, I don't feel like I'm fully capable of really guiding you through that discussion. And I'm happy to give you my list of what I think we should do. But
That's what I would just want.
Okay.
I understand, we know what we don't know. And don't-
Right, and I'm happy, yeah, we can do
It
that.
would be a starting point.
Sure.
Before we go into a meeting with the consultant, saying, oh, by the way, what do you think about this? And,
Right.
you know, we had some bullet points.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do that will kind of kick us off. I will take our sign design guidelines and kind of highlight the trouble areas in those that I see. And that will give us a good kickoff. Now, I can't speak to planning and zoning because that's a language that is beyond me, to be honest with you. But I can certainly take what we have as far as sign design guidelines and public art guidelines and kind of highlight the trouble areas. And it basically does get into what is temporary, what is permanent, how it's affixed to the buildings.
It would help me
Sure.
if you could bring up some examples of where we've seen this happen.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Rather than general, but I'm just trying to.
That's a
prepare
good
myself.
point, because a lot of us have seen it, we've kind of lived through it, and you're like going, what are we talking about?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do that, and I can give you many, many examples of it.
How about this one?
Just five. You know, and you know, for right now, go down and look at the what is it, the farm market down that has the back painted glass with all of the farm stuff on it. Really, what is that? Is that a sign? Is that a permanent sign? Because it's painted,
Decoration.
is it decoration? It's painted on the back of the glass. So what is that? You know, it goes against our 25% coverage, but it's on the inside of the glass, and people would argue that's not permanent. So just for right now, go look at that. That's going to kind of tell you. Look at the bollard signs that are placed down on the gas station down here on the corner. If they put a sleeve like Pepsi over one of the bollards, what is that? Is that a temporary sign? Is that a permanent sign? Is that something that we need to start addressing? And that's just a couple examples I'll give you to kind of get this churning in your mind. But I'll bring you that list of what I see the trouble spots are. You know, go look at Ephraim McDowell, where they have put these big pull-down, stand-up window. It's not attached to the building completely, but it completely obscures the whole window. I would call that a sign. And I would say that that violates our 25% coverage, but because it's not attached to the building, you know, we don't really have, that's a loophole in there. But to get you churning, that's kind of the things I see that I can point out immediately that we need to look at.
If it's
And
not attached to the building, what's it attached to?
It's just stand up, freestanding. And I just got a thing from Farmers Bank asking for a complete full, and I copied Tom on it, a complete full vinyl clean to obscure all the windows in the Farmers Bank building. And I told the guy, that's not gonna fly. And I had to tell him, you know, because the next question is going to be, well, I see Ephraim McDowell's done it. No, they have a stand-up screen that's not attached to the building. So, you know, Farmers Bank could completely obscure everything from the inside by putting a stand-up screen up there, so, and I would still call that a sign. You know, that's directing people in their business and telling them what their business does, so we don't really have any way to say anything about that at this particular point.
Well, I'll go visit these sites because it doesn't require a cell.
Yes, sir. You're just gonna have to bring it on, Lynn, and embrace that 21st century. I know. I know.
All right. Motion to adjourn?
No, we,
What?
no, wait.
This is a special call meeting. We can't come up with other topics, but we can sit here and talk a while.
Well,
Oh, you're right,
I
you're
guess
right.
we can adjourn, and then I can ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor? Aye. Now.